Frequency, Chapter 11, Part 2. Flash caught up and studied her out of the corner of his eye. Vinyl, what's really going on? She sneered and turned her head away.
How the hey should I know?
You've been getting more and more isolated ever since that meeting with the princesses, he said. That was months ago. What happened?
Isolated?
She cocked her head his way, even as her stomach dropped out.
What do you mean, isolated? Didn't you see me rocking out in the club tonight?
He huffed and stared at his hooves. So you aren't gonna talk, huh? Vinyl came to a stop. She watched him walk on, her heart twisting in the most unwelcome of ways. No matter how much she willed her legs to move, she seemed rooted to the spot. When he at last turned, she found she couldn't meet his eyes, so she looked away to watch the snowfall. When Flash finally spoke, it was with a tone of concern. Vinyl, what's wrong? Her chest was tight. She watched her sharp breaths rise as a pale fog before her muzzle. Luna's words reverberated within her, like ice picks digging into her insides, but to remove them for him to see. She glanced his way, and saw that look she loved and hated so much. The big puppy dog eyes and that tiny frown. It was the first and last thing she needed to see. She dropped to her haunches and wrapped herself in a tight hug.
I want to be safe.
Flash's ears perked. He took a tentative step forward. What do you mean?
I don't want to think about it.
She muttered.
I mean, it's dangerous. Thinking. If you have to think, do you have to take responsibility? I've never been responsible for anything.
I see. Flash approached and sat before her. I think.
Look, I'm not trying to avoid you, Flash.
She pulled her glasses off and set them atop her horn so she could look him in the eyes properly.
Well, maybe it's just that suddenly I became aware that this story might not have a happy ending. You know? Luna asked me a question, but I don't know the answer. And I don't want to think about the answer.
So, you drown yourself in work and music? Flash shook his head. That's not gonna solve anything.
I know,
she whispered.
It's a distraction. I know it's a distraction.
She stared at her hooves and chewed her lip.
I don't want to think about it. If I think about it, it'll be real, and I'll have to face it.
Face what? Flash nuzzled her, and she pressed against him. Come on, Vinyl, talk to me. She kept silent, burying her muzzle into his shoulder. They remained that way for a while, and Vinyl couldn't help hoping that he'd take her in his embrace and make her feel better. He never did, though, and she stubbornly refused to be the one to initiate that level of contact. If only she didn't feel so small. At last, Flash sighed. Vinyl, you have to take responsibility for whatever it is.
No, I don't,
she whispered.
If I hide long enough, it'll go away.
He stepped back, and when she looked up, she winced at his hard expression. That's terrible, Vinyl. Your father would be disappointed if he heard you say that. Vinyl's heart trembled, and the sensation brought a gasp from her lips.
You don't bring him into this!
Why not? Flash sneered. You kept going on and on about how much you appreciated him, how you want to be just like him. Isn't that why you went so far for Addie in the first place? And now this?
Shut up!
She covered her ears and shook her head forcefully.
I'm not my father, okay? I can't be that good.
He pulled her legs down, easily resisting her struggling attempts to break free of his hold. Yes, you can. You've been paying plenty of attention, Vinyl, and I know you can do whatever it takes if you put your mind to it. All you gotta do is buck up and face it. She shoved against him, but he still wouldn't let go.
It's not that simple. What if I fail, huh? What if Addie... Addie...
Tears began to form in her eyes. She cursed and struggled to rub them away.
I'm too much like my stupid, lazy failure of a mom!
You're not a failure!
What do you know?
She aimed her horn for the ground and released a simple bolt of energy, about the only defensive spell she knew. It sizzled the snow beneath Flash into a puddle, before rapidly freezing. He slipped and collapsed to his barrel, and she took the opportunity to jerk free. Flash stomped the ice and glared up at her. "You can't run! The problem's not gonna go away, Vinyl!"
I know!
She shouted as she galloped past him.
But that won't stop me from trying!
Vinyl! He slipped about on the ice. "You're better than this, I know you are!" She just kept running, icy tears streaming down her cheeks as she fled. Vinyl trudged up the steps of Kentarō Castle's tallest tower yet again. For once, she wasn't looking forward to talking to Addie. She'd not touched her radio in 3 days, not since her argument with Flash. She hadn't even seen him in that time either. Her hooves felt like lead, and her heart had been aching. Even so, she kept cursing Flash's name in the back of her mind, over and over again. She'd been doing fine, hadn't she? The work on her album, staying overtime at the club, it all served its purpose. Yet now she was thinking and couldn't stop. Her thoughts passed over the usual suspects, from Addie to Flash to Luna and back to Addie, again and again and again. If only it would stop. If only she wasn't so scared. The door to the astronomy room loomed over her. Vinyl crouched low and wondered if she might get away with turning around and marching back home. It was a foolish thought. It made her feel dumb. Yet it might be better than the alternative, right? Vinyl shook her head frantically and slapped her cheeks a couple of times.
Snap out of it!
She snarled.
It's just another brief meeting with Luna about trajectories and that other space junk. Nothing you haven't done before, right?
She shivered and wished it had anything to do with the cold. Finally, she reached up and pushed through the door. It took 4 steps for her to realize something was off. The windows of the circling balcony were covered in a magical barrier to keep out the cold. But that was nothing new for this time of year. The real issue was how she was alone. Except for special circumstances, Luna had always been there for her. The princess was nothing if not punctual. Wondering if something might be wrong, Vinyl slowly approached the usual table. She paused upon realizing that the table was bare.
What happened to the little white radio?
A quick glance around revealed no sign of the device.
What the hell? Oh, hello there.
Vinyl nearly hit the ceiling at how she jumped so high. She jerked about to find an unfamiliar sight. Princess Cadence. The princess was walking around to the central column of the tower. A playful smile on her lips as she approached.
You must be Miss Scratch. It's rather surprising we've not met before, don't you think? What are you doing here?
Vinyl took a couple steps towards Cadence, then remembered who she was talking to, and hurriedly dropped to a bow.
Wait, oh, sorry!
Compared to Luna's laugh, Cadence's was far more... well, what word could Vinyl use to describe it? Dainty came to mind?
It's alright. I think you're familiar enough with royalty at this point that we can forego such formalities. Oh, right.
Vinyl stood and blushed.
I didn't know you were in Canterlot, Your Majesty. It's a private visit,
Cadence said, as she sat before Vinyl, at which time she noticed the princess was smaller than either Luna or Celestia.
It was not something the public needed to be privy to. I see.
Vinyl glanced around the room.
So, why are you here? And where's Luna, princess?
Cadence smiled. It reminded Vinyl of a wolf on the prowl.
I'm sorry, but you just missed Aunt Luna. She got called to the throne room to handle some business with the Night Court. Huh.
Vinyl glanced back at the doorway. She certainly hadn't seen the princess on the stairs. She looked to the table and wondered about the missing radio, then observed the open windows. Snow continued to fall beyond the magical barriers.
So she flew in the cold? Come now, Miss Scratch,
Cadence said playfully, as she trotted to the nearby table.
Do you think a little cold will stop a princess from performing her duties with all due haste?
Vinyl grimaced, but got the gist. She followed and sat at the table opposite of Cadence.
I think I know a setup when I see one.
Cadence then did something that caught Vinyl entirely off guard. She stuck her tongue out.
Oh, you just don't want to be any fun, do you? Half the entertainment is the trickery. What?
Vinyl blinked, stared, then blinked again.
You're certainly not like Celestia and Luna, are you?
Another laugh burst from Cadence.
No, I am most certainly not. I'm more like Twilight, really, only far less bookish. Huh.
Vinyl shifted and glanced around.
So, why are you really here, Princess?
Oh, I love me some lovey-dovey talk. It never gets old, it's always so entertaining. Especially when you get them to cringe, oh my god, it's fun. Anywho, let's get on to our confident donators. Top donators: Jessie Smith, Zar630, BadassWaffle, Only One Thing, Ceru Orion, and Caladis. Magivic, Jock, Luciisu, Darkside, Rayden, Runescythe, Will, Twinkie, Luigi, Chancellor Crust, Big Smoke, Murder Princess, Little Mighty, Solar Symphony, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.